In a pivotal week for regulatory action, a judge did stop that $25 billion merger of Kroger and Albertsons. Now, a report says President Biden plans to block the sale of U.S. Steel to Nippon Steel. Joining us now, Aaron Glick, TD Securities merger specialist. Aaron, you have a fascinating job. You kind of look at what the markets are telling you about the likelihood of these deals rather than the likelihood of these deals to decide what the market's going to do. What's the market telling you about Kroger and Albertsons? Is it dead?
Yeah, market's really not pricing much chance of a positive outcome here in Albertsons, which is not a surprise following the Oregon decision. But I would say there's a lot of optimism going forward that there's another action that can be taken by Albertsons or really Cerberus to unlock value. And we could get into some of those. U.S. Steel, on the other hand, still pricing some hope.
And it is. And what would that hope be? And you use the term Trump art of the deal resolution. So even though he's saying no, he might be saying, well, let's talk.
So this is an ARB theory, right? So the stocks where it settled around $35 yesterday, I still think there's probably about 10, maybe 15% of deal premium, risk premium left in the stock for actually the transaction completing. And one of the theories investors have is that, Trump says he's going to block the deal, but just think about the Trump art of the deal. He's a deal maker. Maybe there's a path forward. You never know. Everyone has different opinions. Like, there's not a lot of hope priced into the stock at this point, but there is still some.
And going back to Albertsons, or you can talk in general, how about, do you have a feeling of what antitrust looks like in the next administration? And is it clear given the FTC nominee?
Yeah, so Andrew Ferguson to lead the FTC as chairman. He's an antitrust. He's a tough enforcer, like from historical perspective, maybe not relative to Lena Khan. I think what we're hearing is there's going to be much more focus on bringing actions that there's going to be a lot more focus on the budget and resource constraints and bringing meaningful lawsuits. I don't think we're going to see frivolous, what's called second requests or in-depth regulatory reviews on transactions. So these are both Slater, who was nominated to run the DOJ, and Ferguson, who was nominated to run the FTC. These are enforcement oriented regulators, but not necessarily in the same vein as what we saw from the Biden administration, which really had an agenda to kind of halt or slow all types of M&A. I think this is going to be much more targeted. Anti-competitive deals still will be challenged, but they don't have the same anti-merger mindset.
Aaron, what's your sense about just how CFIUS will be used, and to the extent that will be used as some kind of larger negotiating cudgel against potential other countries and the like? We're all watching. I know it's not a deal per se, but we're all watching the future of TikTok, for example, here in the United States, and whether ultimately President Trump tries to do something there and allow it to be used here, but maybe we'll try to extract something from the Chinese.
Yeah, I think it's similar to the way investors are thinking about U.S. Steel, and based on the conversations we're having with our folks who have worked in CFIUS and other agencies, it seems like everything at the president's disposal is going to be used as part of his toolkit for negotiating deals. At least that's the expectation. What
you mentioned some other outcomes for Albertsons. What else could happen? And this is done? It's hard to believe that. I guess so. The Biden administration opposes it. They get a judge to back them. So there's no higher power to appeal to from there. And I don't know, what would Trump say?
Yeah, so it may not be done. The vote to block this deal was the 3 Democratic commissioners at the FTC. The 2 Republican commissioners weren't in place yet. So potentially there's a settlement that could happen with the Trump administration based on some conversations we've had with former FTC officials. It gets a little complicated now because it's being pushed into what's called their administrative law proceedings. So it may not be, it's not clear that actually the new Ferguson and the new Republican FTC could actually take action to settle that right away, at least. But there are other things that could be done, even if it's not a settlement. For example, when Walgreens was essentially blocked from buying Rite Aid, they did, after they terminated that deal, they acquired, I think, over half of their locations. So there could be other things that Albertsons can do or Cerberus can do to monetize their stake.